Working hard and trying to be productive all the time is stupid. All we hear from the biggest self-help influencers and entrepreneurs is to work every waking hour, wake up at 5 a.m. and hustle every hour of the day. And if you're someone like me who is deeply involved in and enjoys personal development, you've tried this and all you've achieved is burnout and a lack of purpose. The more I look back on how I achieved my success with my YouTube channel and my business online, the more I see that it wasn't so much how much work I was doing, but the quality and importance of said work. There is a massive difference between being busy and actually being productive. If I were to track everything I do in a given day, I would say that for the past 3 to 4 years, I spend at most 4 to 5 hours a day on my craft and on my business. So how did I do this? I didn't realize it at the time, but it was due to a couple concepts that I just recently learned about in the past year called deep work and flow state. And it's very important that you watch this whole video because I'm gonna go over both deep work and flow state, and if you try to do one without the other, it's not gonna be as optimal, and the work that you produce is just not gonna be as good. In his book, Cal Newport calls deep work the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. He says that the key to developing a deep work habit is to move beyond good intentions and develop routines and rituals to your working life that are designed to minimize the limited amount of willpower that you have each day. See, our willpower is like a rechargeable battery. You only have so much of it in a day, and it requires you to take some rest and recovery time in order for you to recharge it to do deep work the next day too. One of the biggest things that's helped me use my willpower on the right things is doing the most important, most difficult task of the day first. I find that when I try to write a script for a video or film or edit a video after I've done some other tasks in the day, it just goes a lot less smoothly and the video isn't as good as I want it to be. But if that's not possible for you and you have a job to do before you get into that deep work that you want to do with making a business or just creating a different life, that's totally okay. It's not gonna make too much of a difference. So like Cal said, we need to turn this into a ritual. We need to turn deep work into something that becomes habitual. So how do we do that? First, your ritual needs to specify a location for your deep work efforts. This can be a home office like mine right behind me, but you need to do the deep work in the same area pretty much every single day. Because once you get into this environment, it's gonna trigger something in your brain that says, hey, this is my workstation. It's time to get into deep work, and it's gonna make it easier to get into deep work once you stay doing deep work in the same environment for so long. Now, regardless of where you work, you also need to set a specific time frame so it becomes something like a discrete challenge and not an open-ended slog. It needs to be a specific time session that you're deciding, this is gonna be my deep work time, and I'm going to let nothing else take away from this time. Your ritual also needs rules and processes to keep your efforts structured. And the biggest rule above all that everyone, I believe, needs to follow that will allow you to get into deep work so much easier is to not use your phone during this time at all. But it's the hardest and biggest distraction. If my phone is right next to me on my desk, I'm like, I just habitually pick it up and use it, and it gets me out of the deep work state, and it makes it so that I'm going in and out of a deep work state, which is not optimal at all. So there's a few ways you can counteract this. First off, you could just put your phone in a completely different room and just allow yourself and make the rule in your head that you're not going to get up out of this chair for the next hour or two unless you have to go to the bathroom. Or if you really don't have that much willpower and you still will find that you go into that other room and pick up your phone, you can use some type of Lock Me Out app. Now, I've used an app for a long time on my Android. It's literally just called Lock Me Out, and it's free. There's probably an iOS equivalent, but I also just found out that Android has its own type of Lock Me Out thing completely for free within the settings in digital and well-being. So that's what I use from now on when I want to get into these deep work sessions. And within these apps, you can also filter out some apps that are like emergency apps, maybe the phone app or the messages app, if you were to get something super urgent and important that you had to respond to. But 99% of the time, it's not going to be something you need to respond to. Seriously. Now, a huge problem for a lot of us is we don't know which one of our habits and our rituals that we do on a daily basis are actually contributing to the betterment of our goals and to what we're actually trying to achieve in life. This is what I talked about, where we get busy work done, but we don't get productive work done. And so to get rid of this, Newport has laid out something called the craftsman's approach to tool selection. The first step is to identify the main high-level goals in both your professional and your personal life. The key is to keep the list limited to what's most important and to keep the description suitably high level. Once you've identified these goals, list for each the 2 or 3 most important activities that help you satisfy the goal. And these activities should be specific enough to allow you to clearly picture yourself doing them. But on the other hand, they should be general enough so that they're not tied to a one-time outcome. The next step in this strategy is to consider the network tools you currently use. For each such tool, go through the key activities you identified and ask whether the use of the tool has a substantially positive impact, a substantially negative impact, or little impact on your regular and successful participation in the activity. Now comes the most important decision. Only keep using this tool if you've concluded that the substantial positive impacts outweighs the negative impacts. And another thing that I love that Cal Newport stresses in this book is the importance of setting downtime at night to do absolutely nothing and to not focus or think about your work at all. He says at the end of the workday, shut down your consideration of work issues until the next morning. No after dinner email check, no mental replays of conversations, and no scheming about how you'll handle an upcoming challenge. You gotta shut down your work thinking completely for at least a little bit of your night. And the first reason for doing this is because it aids insights. I've talked about this before about becoming as bored as possible and allowing your mind to wander. It allows you to not only recharge, but to get new insights and ideas that you wouldn't have if you were focusing on your work. Second reason is more obvious. It's because the downtime allows us to recharge that willpower that I was talking about earlier. And the third reason is that the work that the evening downtime replaces usually isn't that important, and it almost always isn't the deep work. So how long should these deep work sessions actually be? Cal says that for beginners, it's going to be about 1 hour long, but you can work up to as much as like 4 hours, which is pretty much what I do now. So I would say start off with 1 hour, and yes, that means that you're only working on your craft really for 1 hour in a day, but that is okay. These good things in life, this whole YouTube channel that I've created, my business and brand, have taken 4 years to create. As long as you're putting in that deep work, at least an hour a day, you'll get there eventually, trust me, but don't try to rush it. So there's still more pieces of the puzzle that I haven't gone over yet for doing deeper work, more meaningful and higher quality work. And the next thing that I want to talk about is getting into flow state. If I could describe this, flow state is just the state of getting completely immersed in your work. It's the feeling of losing your ego in the task at hand and completely forgetting about outside worries and concerns. And it's also when the best and most creative work happens. I want you to think about when you've been playing like a video game or a sport and you completely lose track of time because you're just enjoying what you're doing so much, and what feels like minutes is actually hours. You were probably in flow state at this time without you even knowing it. Luckily, there's actually a way to basically hack yourself to get into flow state more often during these deep work sessions. First, you want to find a challenge that you actually enjoy doing that's related to what you're trying to achieve in life, of course. And I always preach about doing something or working towards something that you enjoy doing for an income. So the challenge that you want to do and accomplish should be enjoyable, because that is what you should be trying to achieve in life. At least that's what I think. But if this something is too easy, you'll be bored and your mind is likely to wander, so you won't achieve the flow state. And if something is too hard, you'll be overwhelmed and you won't be able to achieve that subconscious competence that is necessary for the flow state. So basically, don't make it too hard, but don't make it too easy. Just challenging enough so that you can consistently make progress on the thing that you're doing. The next step to achieving flow state is to focus completely on the task at hand. And we've kind of already talked about this, about removing any and all distractions other than your work. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that if you get on your desktop and that's where your work is, you might be tempted to like open up a new tab and go on YouTube. There are apps for that too, to lock you out of getting onto any website. And eventually you won't have to do this as much because it'll become a habit to not want to do things not related to your work when you're doing work. But at the start, it's definitely necessary for most people. If your concentration is broken, you're gonna break your state of flow. That's why this is so important. But you also don't want it to be too short because it's likely gonna take you at least 15 minutes to get into flow state, so make sure it is a sufficient amount of time. And the last step is to monitor your emotional state. If you're in an aroused state, like angry, anxious, worried, and so on, try doing something that will calm you down. Because if you're not in the right state of mind, even if you do follow all these other steps, you're not gonna be in as deep of a flow state. So try doing something maybe before you do your work, or if you are trying to do your work and it's just not working out, do something that will calm you down, you know, meditate, take a walk really quick, just something to get the vibes back to normal so that you can actually achieve this flow state and get into that deep work. Also, if you guys want to check out the books, Deep Work and Flow, which is where I got these ideas from, and you want to get a deeper understanding of them, go to the link in my description. I'll have them linked there if you want to read more about them. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like for me. If you're new to my channel, my name's Cole Hastings. I make videos about self-help, fitness, building your body, mind, all that kind of stuff. So subscribe if you are new, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, I love you guys so much. Thank you for everything. I'm gonna go now, so have a good rest of your day and go do some deep work in flow state.